You're watching Service Electric 2 Sports, presented in high definition.
Good evening and welcome into the SportsFest warm-up show. As always, I'm your host, Erica Rose. In this first segment, we travel to Lehigh Valley Health Network. What many may not know is that there is a fitness center right inside. There I talked to Rob Fotz, who will introduce the functional movement screen. Athletes, listen up for that. And after we get active going swimming and bowling, stay tuned to find out about some awesome deals at AMF Parkway Lanes. I'm currently at Lehigh Valley Health Network Fitness and Sports Performance Center, and I want to welcome in Sports Performance Specialist Rob Fotz. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
First, just tell us a little about the place here.
So this is the LVHN Fitness and Sports Performance, as we talked about, and we've been here for about 6 years now doing community outreach and fitness to post-rehab and a lot of our employee base.
What is the goal here?
The goal here is to live a healthy life. We're really looking to make sure that people are getting what they need and not a lot of fluff. We want to make sure that everyone comes in, they get a nice program written up for them that addresses their specific needs and wants, and that way everyone's satisfied with what they're getting out of their programs.
One assessment process we're going to talk about today is the functional movement screen. What is that?
The functional movement screen is a screening tool that is used to address movement capabilities. It was created by Greg Cook and Dr. Lee Burton to get objective and subjective data from movement and to compile data so that we could have comparisons from injury and pre-injury and post-injury.
So what does the functional movement screen tell you?
The functional movement screen tells you whether you have any sort of deficient movement on the 7 basic movement patterns, or if you have any right to left asymmetries, because if you do, that can lead to injury in the future.
What is the FMS intended for?
The FMS is intended for pretty much everybody, but when it started out, it was for athletes. So the athletic population really does well with this because they're really driven and they know that if they want to get better, that they have to make all those steps together.
So you mentioned the athletes. Why is it important for them?
It's important for them because you can't be the best you can be if you don't unlock your full potential. And by going through these tests and looking if you are deficient or asymmetrical, if you're one of those two, you're not at your full potential.
So most tests for performance are quantitative. Why is looking at performance in a qualitative manner important?
So a lot of tests like the pro agility or the long jump or the vertical test only look at numbers. So when you can break something down to qualitative instead of just sheer numbers, it really gives you an idea of, yes, maybe this person can do this, but they're not doing it as well as they can. And by looking at something qualitatively, you can make sure that your athlete is getting the most out of their training as they can.
So what is the grading system for the test?
The grading system is based from 0 to 3. 0 would be pain. Now, if you have pain in any of these movement patterns, you're immediately referred to your physician or a physical therapist. A 1 is deficient movement. A 2 is basically you're ready to train. 2s are great. 3s are just really icing on the cake.
So what is the test comprised of?
The test is comprised of 7 tests. So it's broken down into the deep squat, which measures more of a global function. Then it goes to the inline lunge, where you're measuring your feet and your hips to make sure that you are symmetrical in a straight line. Then you move on to the hurdle step, where you're measuring your ability to stand on one leg and balance and keep core and pelvic stability. Then we'll move to the shoulder mobility, where you're looking for that scapular rhythm when one arm goes above the head, one arm goes behind. You do that both sides. Then you're looking at the trunk stability push-up, where you're measuring the reflexive core. So it's a little different from the outer core that everyone tries to train with crunches and sit-ups. it's just trained a little differently. Then we look at the rotational stability, so rotary stability, where you're looking also at that reflexive core in a quadruped stance. And then the last one is probably the most important one, and it's the active straight leg raise, which measures the ability for you to disassociate legs, kind of like a running pattern, and maintain pelvic and core stability.
Now, what are the expected outcomes?
So the expected outcomes, what you're looking for out of this test is to see first what your mobility is like, and then stability. Because if you don't have full mobility, you'll never have full stability. So the expected outcomes of this is to make sure that A, you have full mobility throughout all these ranges of motion, and then you have great stability to make sure that you can get through the range of motion in a safe way.
And finally, what are the benefits of the FMS?
So the benefits of the FMS is communication. You want to be able to communicate with your physician, the athlete's physician, the physical therapist in case there is an injury, or you want to be able to communicate this to the coach. Evaluation is always a goal because that's what this whole test is. It's to evaluate the athlete. Standardization, not a lot of tests are out there that standardize movement in a package. So being able to standardize the movement in 7 different ways and have that universal is a great tool. Safety, injury prevention is a key. Making sure that your athletes are on the field and that they're safe is an absolute necessity. Corrective strategies. So after we've gone through and we've assessed and looked through everything, the next step is making sure that what you see that is deficient or is an asymmetrical movement, that you're able to correct those through exercises and stretching and mobility work.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Rob.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, we will take a short break and we will be right back. Stay tuned.